How is it that you can give someone a sugar pill, a saline injection, or perform some false surgery or treatment, and a certain percentage of those people will accept, believe, and surrender to the thought or the idea that they're getting the actual substance, and they begin to program their autonomic nervous system to make their own pharmacy of chemicals that matches the exact same chemical that they think they're taking? In other words, was it the inert substance or fake treatment that did the healing for them, or was it the body's innate ability to heal itself? So that pill then represents a potential called health, or what we say in our work, a potential in the quantum field. And by the way, certain color pills work better than other pills. If you charge more money for medication, those pills will actually work better. If you name them something that a person has difficulty pronouncing, they'll give their power away to that substance and it'll work even more. But if you think about the idea of giving someone a sugar pill, that pill represents a potential in the quantum field, a possibility called getting better. A certain percentage of those people that are getting a pill and they have their belief in the idea that pills heal them, once they combine that thought called getting better with an elevated emotion, a heartfelt emotion, like gratitude or joy or inspiration or enthusiasm and theos filled with God. When you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you begin to change your state of being. Now, what do I mean by that? Thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So the brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact of all the things you've learned and experienced to this moment. So if the brain is a record of the past, most people are thinking within their neurobiology of the past. And if feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences, and we can remember experiences better because we can remember how they feel, and if feelings are the language of the body, as we just said a moment ago, then if a person is feeling the same way every single day, it means two things. Nothing new is happening in their lives. And secondly, their body, as the unconscious mind, does not know the difference between an experience in their life that creates an emotion and an emotion that they're creating by thought alone. So their body, as the unconscious mind, is believing it's living in the same past experiences 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In other words, the body believes it's in the past. So then most people are thinking within the neurocircuitry of past circuits from thoughts and experiences that they've had. And they keep embracing familiar emotions that are within the chemistry of events that have already occurred to them that are familiar to them. And so for most people, their neurochemistry, their biology literally is in the past. So then the idea of a person then putting their faith or belief in something that's known, like a pill, and combining it with an elevated emotion like joy or inspiration, they're changing their very state of being. And a certain percentage of those people will begin to produce their own pharmacy of chemicals that matches the exact chemical they think they're taking. As an example, 81% of people that are in a study for depression that are given a placebo, 81% of those people respond as well as if they're giving the real antidepressant. That means then that they're making their own pharmacy of antidepressants that match the exact antidepressant they think they're taking. And in study after study, when they've done brain scans, functional scans on the subjects' brains that are taking the placebo before they're administered the placebo, and at the end of the study 6 weeks later, a majority of those people's brains actually look better. In other words, it looks like the areas that were suppressed or depressed or weren't working well are all of a sudden back online. And those people actually believe, many of them are thinking, that the researchers made a mistake and that they gave them the actual substance. So then when the person gets a sugar pill or a saline injection or has some false surgery or treatment being done to them, the moment they accept, believe, and surrender without any analysis that they're getting something real, the thought begins to program their autonomic nervous system to make the exact chemicals that they think that they need. So it's not the inert substance that's doing the healing. It's the body's innate ability to heal. So then the question, of course, is, do you need the sugar pill? Do you need the saline injection or some false treatment to begin the process of healing? Or could you do the exact same thing, but instead of putting your faith and belief in something outside of you, a known, could you put your faith and belief in an unknown, a potential in the quantum field, and revisit that potential over and over again and begin to emotionally embrace how you would feel before the actual healing took place? Could you begin to program your autonomic nervous system to move into a new state of being? And if you revisited that unknown over and over again, could you make that unknown known and begin to heal by thought alone? So why is it important then to do it every day? Why is it important that I say a period of time? Because even in the studies where people were given an antidepressant that was given a placebo that was really supposed to be an antidepressant, they took that antidepressant for 6 to 8 weeks. And the pill then was a reminder for them of what their future would be like. So then every single day they are moving into a new state of being. So we found out that in our research that we can take common people and we can give them the same exact methodology, the technique, and instead of putting their faith and belief in something outside of them, putting their faith and belief of what's inside of us and in a potential in the quantum field, and every single day move into a new state of being in the exact same way that the people did in their placebo studies. But instead of giving their power away to something outside of them, they were changing their state of being by thought alone. So here's the question. Most people are defined by their memories of the past, either the things they've experienced neurologically or the emotions that they've experienced chemically. But we're asking people to be defined by a vision of the future instead of a memory of the past. And the question, of course, that I had is, once you understand how the placebo works, and you understand the anatomy of a belief, and you begin to demystify the principles of what allow placebos to actually change people by thought alone, can you actually teach it to people so that whether they're treating conventionally or unconventionally, whether they're getting worse by some affliction or disease in their life, if they practice the same methodology, would they begin to experience their own biological changes? And the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, in the research that we've done, we've been pleasantly surprised by the idea that people actually exceeded what we thought was possible. Now, I'll talk about that later on in this presentation. But the placebo is basically built on 3 things. The one thing that allows placebo to work very well is the concept called conditioning. And Pavlov was one of the early scientists that really began to break ground on the concept of classical conditioning. So his experiments, he took a dog and strapped the dog to a table, and he was really interested in measuring salivary enzymes. That's where his studies were. But what he did was he offered the dog a meal and then rang a bell. He had a stimulus and then he produced a response. But along with feeding the dog a meal, he had a conditioned stimulus that went along with it, the ringing of a bell. So every time he fed the dog a meal, he rang a bell. And after a period of exposures, he was able to take the meal away and ring a bell, and the dog would begin to associate the past experience with the present moment. In other words, most conditionings are based on the past. So then, if you take someone who's been dependent on a medication for a period of time for pain, and that pill looks like a certain color and it has a certain shape, and that pill has been able to reduce a person's pain levels for a period of time, it's highly possible then that you could substitute that pill with a pill that looks just like the pill they've been taking. And by association, the moment they see that pill, their body begins to biologically and chemically change in preparation for that event. In other words, when Pavlov rang the bell and the dog heard that sound, it created the image from the past experience of what was about to take place in the present moment. And the dog's body automatically, physiologically, chemically, subconsciously began to change in preparation for the event. In other words, the dog's body was beginning to believe it was in the experience ahead of the actual experience. So many placebo studies, primarily around pain and depression and asthma, you can actually give someone some type of substance that they think is the real substance because it looks like it, and their body begins to produce the same chemicals by conditioning, just like Pavlov's dog. So then you have to understand then that a lot of people put so much faith in the medical model, so much faith in drugs and in surgery and in typical treatments based on the programming of what we're taught in or exposed to in television commercials and in media, that people all of a sudden have a better level of efficacy. In other words, the drugs work better when they have been conditioned to believe that they work better.